Hello everybody. It's cold out here in them streets. What streets? The mathematical streets. We're out here looking for the ops. Well, who are the ops? Logical inconsistency. Welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm, back in the park, looking for sensorality. You know what we do, no introductions, empirical evidence. What the fuck is this theorem to our next axiom? I'm bored of sensorality. We need to spice things up. Where are we at? Okay. How does identificationality affect decisionality? How does your identity affect your decision? Well, your identity is based on your value structure. What is your value structure? Your environment, where you're born. Whether you like the red team or the blue team or the Colts or the Bengals or the cricket teams from India or Arsenal or Tottenham or whatever. Your identity comes from your environment, that is nurture versus nurture, nature being your genetic code, nurture being your environment. The answer to that question is nurture. So your identity affects how you make decisions. And I would say that's like your fundamental identity, but then your identity as a business person or as a person in society, a judge, a post office worker, a business owner, an employee, whatever. All those different titles and labelings we have affects your ability to make decisions and which decisions you make. Identity, decision, identity identifies. Sensorality is informationality. Remember, we started this proofing as vibrational information theory, which literally all information comes to you from vibration. And so now we're describing sensation, the input, how we filter things with sensation. But we always have to relate it back to our base. Again, vibration is this solidified base of R1, R2 being energy, which is radiation. You can use light, it's just not applicable in its complete generality. And now we're in R3, which is dominated by rhythm. And so all physical systems maximize their movement by forming a rhythm. And so information is maximally something with rhythm. Point being is we're just connecting our logic to physical processes. Sensorality is identicality. Identicality does not exist, right? Nothing is completely the same. It's very easy to say from person to person that those are not the same thing, but if you take a factory line and you took every resource you could in the world, could you produce exactly identical replicas? No. Right, like it's not even like a hard thing to consider, right? If you have something in your hand and you try to make the same exact thing, you can't take those molecules, right? I mean, don't overthink it, right? Nothing is identical. Dimple, sensorality is simple. Sensorality simplifies. Simplify, simplicate. Simplicality is foundational, right? When we say basic, or when I say fundamental, it means the most frequent. Foundational meaning frequency as well. Sensorality is foundationality. Functionality is foundational, right? You encounter an object in the woods, you have no idea what it is, you're going to assess its form for its function. In the same kind of sense, if you come across a signpost in the woods and you had no context, well, I guess so you can't remove context from any given piece of diction or expression even. And so, right, because if you're a signpost in the woods, you're in the woods, so that's the context. But the point being is signposts in the woods are actually really interesting because it's just like the most concise verbiage you can say to point someone somewhere. And so it's that's what we're trying to arrive at with sensorality, where it's just you could arrive at a signpost in the woods and you see sensorality is, and you're like, oh yeah, that's true. Where are we at? What is the relationship of identity and reducibility, right? Talked about if I chop off my arm, not chopping off my arm, but if I lose a piece of my body, I'm still me. And so if you can self-identify, again, that's sensorious, but how about, again, identity to an inanimate object, right? Its property, it's got a mass, that's its identity, it's got some sort of charge distribution. Again, obviously this is relatively stable, it's not actively conducting electricity, but there is charge distribution. So that's part of its identity. Any physical property would be an identity. And so some of those properties are and are not reducible, right? I guess I could, if you say reduce your personality to the most core values, it's like, do I really care about if I wear black gloves or a gray sweatshirt or a black sweatshirt? I don't really care. So it's like there's some parts that are fundamental and irreducible and other parts that aren't. Sensorality is the ability to sense, right? So, again, all words can be defined with tautology. You just say sensorality is sensorious, and it is. But it's like it doesn't progress the logic. So we need to connect that base word sense to its next operative axiom, which again will be produced by this reduction process. Sensation enables sensorality. Sationality is sorality. Right? Sation, right? To satiate something, to satisfy, is inherent to life itself. Satisfactorality, factorality, right? Satiality is satisfactory. Sensorality is factorality. Syllables are factors, right? That's what we've proven, is this irreducibility of syllable and of word. If you take X amount of irreducible syllables in the correct order, whatever that is, again, there's a lot of little things we can expand upon, but the word becomes irreducible. And that is what I'm showing you with this entire iteration process of moving these base words and iterating these syllables, is that there's the prefix and suffix is like the packaging, and then the base words are the relations, and we're just reducing this big old logical structure out here in the world to these two base words: sensation, sense to, and again, the entire motivation for the next word is not, you don't guess it, it will be produced linguistically from iterating these letters. But factoring removes. And so again, I haven't formalized it, but it's very clear. If you take one word and you can remove a complete word from it, it's reducible, I mean, demonstrably. And exactly how you limit that, or what's not reducible or irreducible, this exact nuance of the iteration versus amalgamation process, somebody can go win a Fields Medal for that. But, because again, remember, sensorality is not a word. And so this is the same thing at the end of speciality. It's like, are we going to formalize where it's just like, are we going to have an algorithm, so to speak, for mathematical theorems? And no, it's not possible. Missing cause and effect chronology by hundreds of millions, if not billions of years at minimum. And so, point being is just the amalgamation iteration. I'm not, again, working both sides of the equation, putting all of the meat on the table, the small meat, if you will. But that's kind of what going on, is then syllability factors. If you can take a complete syllable or a complete word out of another word, it's certainly not complete. But if you can have some sort of completeness from syllability to wordality, syllables to words as well. Sensorality moves, sensorality removes, right? Censorship is removal. Sensorality is removality. Sensorality is removability. Right? Movability, removability, right? Rhythm moves, vibration does not move. Rhythm does work, vibration does not do work. Work requires movement. And so, again, expanding out, that's very poignant there, going from move to remove, which is preserving the linguistics and the logic, right? Movement, removal, censorship, sensorality. Analogy is based on log, metaphor is not. Again, another one of these words, what is log doing? Algorithm, logarithm, epilogue, prologue, analog, analogy. All right. Don't know why, but that is poignant, because again, we have to reduce. What we showed extensively is we have all of these different gradations of words for specificity. How specific something is, but you're still talking about the same overall concept, or still based on the same word or same idea, same experience. And so we're just scaling, again, scaling the specificity and generality and applicability of all these different words. But people don't talk about that many different things, right? It's just not, like I went out to breakfast this morning, and how many people were just talking about, what they're going to wear to their grandkids' communion or baseball game or basketball game. And then I listened to my parents talk about their day, and it's, my cousin's getting married coming up. What are we going to wear to the wedding? Just very, not to say that's bad by any means, but it's just very mundane. It's not like novel things, I guess. And so people in entirety, me included, don't talk about that many different things. So there's just different gradation to language and to make it apply to different contexts. But the overall fundamental concepts are not that different, right? And the fundamental concept of life being don't die, right? Don't die, reproduce, and think is truly the conceptual theory of the universe, at least for life. Right, and everything below that, not like inanimate objects don't have to worry about not dying. And so that's really like the functional framework that we're in. And then when you don't know something, you talk about sex, it's just true. And so, point being is we're just scaling on this generality and specificity, and we don't talk about that many different things. How does analogy relate to algorithmicality? Again, this base log thing, and now a huge amount of different, but right, algo and analog. A log is kind of like the base of analogy, and then algo, right? A log and algo, same amount of letters, and it's just, again, iterated by one. The O is iterated. But algorithm is, again, we've now kind of, AL is, you can even break that down to like all, like in Spanish, at the, go, you could use the, because it's an amalgamation of syllables. It's not, languages are not distinct. And so then you could use go as like the fundamental, again, the fundamental verb is go. And then rhythmicality is like our physical principle. And so it's like, it's just a big amalgamation. And people don't like realize how, like, again, horseshoes and hand grenades language really is. Fiability, viability. I forget where I get fiable from. I might have read it somewhere, I don't know. Oh, sensorality is identifiable. I have a little arrow in my book. So like I said, I try to read these theorems in order, but these are, again, all theorems and proofs. The whole thing comes to you at once. It's all contained within the logic of the words. So sensorality is viability. Now again, clearly we have, again, ability, stability is our fundamental kind of like efficiency and stability are two big fundamental physical concepts. Like that's even what inanimate objects are doing, is, you know, stabilizing into the most efficient orbital patterns if you're a galaxy or a planet. And so viability, prefix ability, sensorality, sorality is ability. What's the difference between ability and viability? Right, ability is capacity. It's more general, both linguistically and logically. Then we add a prefix, viability, very inherent to life, right? If we're talking about abortion in our law class, right, is the fetus viable, right? Is it sufficient to sustain life on its own? And that's the differentiation we're making, is between inanimate filtration and animate filtration. Sentience. And it's just, we just have to work through all of this logic and connect these words, as I say in every episode. Last thing, a sensorist is a speciesist. Speciesist. So now I don't know, because we might even just redefine speciality, which will give us our definition of sensorality, and then it'll pop out our third thing, which we just have to keep doing this process. So, but a sorist, speciesist, or speciest, S-P-E-C-I-E-S-T. Yep, and that's what I have for logical derivation today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.